Ask Me Anything by Redical. I have been a 911 medic for going on 10 years now. Suffice it to say, I've seen some sh%. Ask Me Anything. A recent post I made garnered a lot of attention and interest. So I figured I would open this up and shed some light on an often overlooked critical profession. Barring patient personal details. Feel free to ask me absolutely anything. Proof. IamGod.com link. Every medic has their own strange nope type of injury or call. Mine was anything with fingers or toes. What's yours? Yay. Of all the shit I've seen, fingernail avulsions make my skin crawl. Haha. What is the worst thing that someone accidentally got stuck in their butt? One of those battery operated toothbrushes? Gets properly securable items for your butt play. People. My sister had the same job north of Cincinnati. She told me about picking up people OD on heroin and hear a clunking sound. Then she looks down and ice cubes on the ground. She says people believe shoving ice up their butts will save them from an OD. So any odd home remedies you come across? I've never seen ice in the butt. But I've had people shoved in ice baths. The stuff people put on burns. Butter, etc. No. 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 How many crazy stupid drivers do you have to avoid? Have you, yourself, almost been in an accident with your siren on? In my experience, it's actually safer for us to drive with the siren and lights off. People go straight stupid when they see the lights. I've seen people pull into oncoming traffic to get out of the way. Remember, slow down, stop and pull to the right. Has anyone died because you couldn't get to them fast enough because of bad traffic? I think about that on my ride home. That if I had a heart attack at 5 PM in the heaviest parts, I'd die because an ambulance couldn't get near me. Oh yay. More often than I think anyone realizes. I don't think people realize that the call they are blocking us from getting to could be someone they love. If I'm by myself at home and I break my wrist, is calling 911 appropriate? Or is that a get your friend to drive you to the emergency room kind of thing? I've just always been curious about things that are kind of an emergency but not really. If you feel you can drive yourself or can easily find someone to drive you, then it's up to you. You may get some pain medicine and you'll get it splintered. But depending on where you are, it's sometimes faster to drive yourself. When in doubt, give us a call. I'd rather someone call us and not need us than need us and not call. Was there any moment that made you think, okay, I quit? Recently I had a string of like 8 bad calls in a week that just completely emotionally wrecked me. I couldn't quit. But it confirmed that I was making the right decision by being in school to move on from this. Do hospital doctors think 911 medics are dumb? Have you ever applied pressure to an otherwise fatal wound? Is defibrillation used as often as movies make you think? How ready is the staff for snake bites? It depends on the DR. I have had some DRS have me hold up and go over a head CT of a stroke PT. And I've had some who think I'm a moron when they had no room to judge anyone. Usually though, unless it's an arrest or incredibly traumatic call, we deal strictly with nursing staff and patient transition. Yay. I had a guy put his arm through a window because he was fighting with his girlfriend. He severed his brachial artery and by the time we got to the ER we were both soaked in blood. I could count on one hand the times I've rolled on scene with a patient already hooked to a ED. I think that's more a cost related thing though. I've actually never dealt with a snake bite call. Though we have some severely venomous ones around here. There is antivenom kept pretty close though. If not in the hospital itself, it's a short flight away. Finally edited out my mistake. I got it, people. Lol. What's the craziest interior decorating decision you've seen in a patient's home? I don't know that anything intentional springs to mind. I have seen people with shit stacked up throughout the house to where there was only a small path from room to room. And I was in a trailer that had a bunch of holes in the floor where cats were climbing in and out. What's one of the nicer things you've had happen on a call? After a call, we had a husband of a patient bring us some snacks and thank us for taking care of his wife. It was really nice to be remembered after the fact. What do you eat during your shifts? Specifically after seeing something gross? Yay. At this point I could eat and suction a trash at the same time. Has anyone ever tried to seduce you when you were called out? If you were, what's the story? Also, have you ever had to go to someone you know? Edit. U/wildfire 701. I had a guy invite me back to his place after my shift to hang out with his 2 girls and him. I didn't go. Lol. Brand new baby medic here. Any advice? I've been an EMT now for 4 years. Start working on your RN? Lol. Nah. Well, yay. But if you love it, keep on. The issues with the job pushes all the decent, well-intentioned people out. Also, lift with your legs. Gonna call it a night, guys. I'll try to pop back in tomorrow and answer anything I didn't get to. Thanks so much for all the questions. And feel free to ask more. Have you ever felt your life was at risk due to a patient? What's the story? Yeah. I've been unexpectedly caught in crossfire. I've found myself locked in a back room of a rundown house with a self-proclaimed white supremacist with a bunch of guns laying around. Several near misses from traffic working on highway. Improperly secured vehicles starting to tip while I'm in them. It's a more common occurrence than I think we realize. Most of the time it's not until after the fact you realize how bad a situation was. Have you ever had to use your training outside at work? Yay. I've rolled up on some wrecks in my personal vehicle. It certainly has helped me learn to keep calm in a crisis. What is your favorite feature in the ambulance? The times I get to use a cot that is automatic are good days. What's the promotion potential like for an EMT? Like, could you get promoted to life flight? It isn't a promotion per se. It is just a different company to work for. To work on a helicopter you have to have 3-5 years of experience in 911. In EMS in general there is like 3 steps on the ladder. Field medic, supervisor, director. It's a very stagnant field in terms of advancement. Have you ever been assaulted or otherwise aggressively treated by patients or bystanders? In the Netherlands this problem has garnered some attention. And I was wondering whether we're the only country that deals with this. The hardest I've ever been hit was by an 80-year-old diabetic lady. Though that was unintentional. But, yeah, I've been pushed around. Mostly with overdoses. Bystanders will call and the patient wakes up in the meantime and gets aggressive thinking we are going to get them arrested. Got any good gunshot stories? I had a hooker whose legal name was Sparkle get shot in the ass by her pimp. Just wanted to thank you for the work that you do. I ended up getting knocked off my bike by a car yesterday. I'm fine. And the fact that there was an ambulance with 5-6 people within a few minutes was incredible. I'm happy knowing that there are people like you who are ready to respond to an incident within a moment's notice. My question is, what's the happiest experience you've had with your job? Delivering a happy, healthy baby. So rarely do I get to be on that side of the life. Did you know that I'm your arch nemesis? Battling stupid every day. Lol. I have a cousin who's an EMT. I understand your job only to a degree. But still. Thank you for the place you fill in this world. The work you do makes this ball of blue a better place. At what point in your job did you feel the most relief? The biggest weight being lifted off your shoulders? Do you take your work home with you? If not, how do you block the troubling stuff out? The really bad stuff I do. Kids are especially rough for me. I mentioned a call somewhere else in here about having to hold the corpse of a newborn for about an hour drive and it ducked me up for probably the better part of 2 months. For the most part though you desensitize yourself to it with a humor callus. I've seen stories of people in EMS getting in trouble for being caught making fun of a patient on a dash cam after a call. But what the public doesn't understand is that it isn't personal and that if we didn't do stuff like that we would all last approximately a year before being committed. What presser do you use up there? We have to switch between dopamine and levofed depending on the mood of the pharmacy packing or drug box that day. Dopamine. Never been a fan of lavender. Lol. Since this will probably be asked eventually, what is the worst thing you've ever seen on the job? And thank you for doing this. It involved holding a dead baby for about an hour drive. We were transporting the mother to another facility and the corpse had to come with us. But I couldn't bear just to lay it somewhere. Have you ever gone to a call that has made you question why you still do this? Thanks for everything you do and everything you will do. Do you mean due to the frivolous nature? Or because of how traumatic it is on the psyche? So, why did you want to get into this profession? Also, do you put anything extra inside your grilled cheese besides cheese? To be honest, I had no idea the profession really existed. I was in college working on my bachelor's in biology when my girlfriend got pregnant. So I had to find a job sooner than later. She was looking in the paper one day and saw an ad and said, "Hey, how about working on an ambulance?" And the rest is history. Eons ago, maybe early mid-90s, the Chicago Tribune did an in-depth article on some Chicago paramedics. Talked a lot about the horrors, the occasional joys, and daily life. Anyway, the part that sticks with me in my memory is the fun the medics had with BS runs. They'd flip the lights on and off to take an x-ray, or wipe a cut with hydrogen peroxide to do an AIDS test. Got anything similar? Ways to mess people or make them feel better when you know it's nothing? Something simple I'll do with older patients is miscalculate their ages. I'll have an old lady tell me her birthday and let's just say she was born in 1937. I'll ask and say that makes you 29 years old, right? Or they'll tell me they're 78 and I respond with "No, you mean 32. Usually gets them to laugh or smile. And that immediately helps calm them down and make them a little at ease. Is it true that you drive with a pan of water in the ambulance? To make sure you drive safe enough for the patient in the back or something? It isn't mandatory, but it is the way I was taught and subsequently teach newbies. The exponential difference between being in the front and back is rough if you're the one in the back. Thank you for doing what you do. Ninja Edit. What's the longest shift you've worked? When I was a young I worked 5 24-hour shifts in a week's time. All in a row 70-ish hours? Not anymore though. Way too old for that. What's the rarest condition that you have diagnosed on spot? And how? What was the treatment after that? I had a patient with some insane looking rash that went diagnosed for like a month. Never found out if it was contagious or anything. It's been a while so I guess I am good. Hello fellow OHIIan and person in the medical field. I do home rehab. I work with fragile and elderly people. I have my med CPR, but what can those of us that have to call a squad for our patients do to help you? Besides CPR, if our patient is breathing on their own but need your services, what can we do or get ready for you? First of all, big props. I don't know if I could handle being with some of the bad patients I've had for days upon days. As far as calling 911, put up any animals, clear us a path to get the stretcher in. It seems a lot of older people have a tendency to hoard. And if your patients do not already have one, help them get together a paper that has all their pertinence, i.e. name, birthday, social, allergies, medical history, and medications. Having all that info waiting and ready to go saves so much time. Do you take lots of heroin overdose calls? What percent of calls are due to drug abuse these days? It comes in waves. You can definitely tell when a bad batch comes into town. I was a part of that. What was it? 45 overdoses in a day spree I'm sure you heard about recently. What happens when you are called to a scene and person has died prior to arrival? Do you turn around? Also, when you get to a scene and there is a body, do you handle the dead at all or does a coroner? I live in Canada and there's a rumors I have heard about EHS drivers. We confirm asystole. Note the presence of lividity and rigor to ensure it isn't recent and I pronounce them dead. From there, law enforcement takes over if it's suspicious. If not, a funeral home comes and gets them. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.